Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to Digital Dialogues powered by CXO Digital Pulse. As enterprises move forward in the year 2026, the security agenda is being redefined by regulatory pressure, data localization mandates, and the rising accountability at board level. Security teams are no longer being assessed by how well they can ensure protection, rather, how well they can enable compliance, resilience, and trust at scale. Today's conversation is all about that how security teams need to understand these critical aspects and where enterprises need to focus in the year 2026. And for same, we have an expert in our studio today. Please welcome Bob Gilbert, who is the Vice President Strategy and Chief Evangelist at Netskope. A very warm welcome, Bob.
Well, thank you for having me. Looking forward to the discussion.
It's indeed our pleasure to have you today with us. Bob, when you're talking to the security teams day in, day out with your customers and the peer group, and we talk about the year 2026, what is there in the platter for 2026?
Wow, that's a very good question. I think you could look no further than my busy week this week in Mumbai. Many customer meetings, and there's a couple topics that are very much resonating with where the industry is going. And when we think about India, compliance is top of mind today, right? Look no further than your Data Protection Act, right? DPDPA.
Yeah.
And I think that was, basically, what was it, 2023, where it was introduced. It's kind of your version of GDPR. And this is becoming a big challenge, right? There's a lot of concerns about maintaining compliance. Are they up to speed? And the complexities around that. So a lot of these organizations are looking for help. How do they address, especially when you have cross-border data transfers?
Yeah. And when you talk about organizations with all this compliances, specifically in context, and you mentioned about DPDPA Act, and last year itself in November 2025, if I'm not wrong, that was the final version was being out there as a policy,
Yep.
and that really got the ball rolling for enterprises. So when the enterprises are talking about compliance and approaching you, what is in their mind? What's the expectation that's been set in their mind versus the reality?
Yeah, expectation versus reality is a big gap, because what we're dealing with now is, it's not just India. It's also, I live in the US, so there's an issue there as well. There's this notion of having legacy infrastructure versus a modern infrastructure. So a lot of still on-prem, disparate tools. A lot of organizations still haven't shifted their complete infrastructure to the cloud, as an example, right? So if you think of, from a compliance standpoint, if you're still living in a legacy world and you have all these disparate tools, I think the last count is, on average, an organization has more than 70 security tools, right? Which is pretty insane. And
True.
These are disparate tools. And I think one of the biggest enemies of security is the human error. And the more disparate tools that you have, the more chance for human error. And that makes compliance very, very difficult. So so the idea here is, how do you close that gap, right?
Mm-hmm. And apart from these compliances, another key aspect which really bothers organization when it comes to security is data security. And a level on that is data sovereignty, which has been added. And this is something which is seen across all the regulations that have been introduced across geography.
Right.
So how do you suggest, or, what are the standard processes or maybe solutions, anything that you would advise to enterprises to ensure data sovereignty for their organization?
Yeah, first of all, understand the compliance requirements. If you look at DPDP, you got to think about data minimalization. You got to think about putting your arms around where your data is. The way my firm, Netskope, thinks about a data security program, especially when it comes to dealing with data sovereignty, is you have the three legs of the data security stool, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have discovery, which is understanding where your data is, which is a big challenge today, because data is everywhere. We've lost track of where our data is as an industry. If you don't know where your data is, how are you going to be compliant? That's a huge gap. Secondly, is even if you could discover your data, how do you understand the sensitive nature of the data? Not all data is the same. Data is very critical. If you're trying to protect the document with the latest cricket scores, that may not be as important as your customer data, right? So the compliance cares about the customer data. So understand the sensitive nature of the data. And then the third leg of the stool is what type of controls and protections can you put around the data, and how do you validate and provide proof that you're putting those protections so you can address the compliance requirements.
Absolutely, and very well framed considering these three pillars, Bob, that the key challenge, and these in fact are the key challenge for enterprises also. They don't know where data is. They don't know what those documents really have. The categorization of, the restrictive confidentiality and something that you can be shared with anyone. That is something which is missing, and that is really critical because now the way mandates are being activated by the government, there's a deadline that enterprises are facing, and specifically in India, if I talk about,
and fines tied to that deadline.
Yes,
that's right.
And they are really hefty fines, is what I understand. And if, as an enterprise, you need to avoid those fines for your own business good, and it's just not about fines, it's just about your own business continuity, the protection of your business data. That is the criticality. And this is where all this discovery, understanding, and protection aspect of your data becomes more and more critical for you as a cybersecurity leader, as an infrastructure leader, or even as an enterprise for itself. And thank you, Bob, for layering it out very crisp and very straightforward for us and our audience in today's conversation. Thank you so much.
Appreciated the discussion. Thank you very much.
And a big thank you to all the viewers for this interview. I hope the aspects became more clear for you. And for similar, more insightful conversation, keep watching this space at Digital Dialogues. We will be bringing more conversations right straight to you. Till then, take care and goodbye.